To another episode of Wild West Coding. Now, if you're new to the series, I'd encourage you to go check out the previous episodes, as the rodeo application that's being worked on builds on the previous episode's code. I'm Ken Alger, and as mentioned, and keeping with the Wild West theme, I'm working on an application for rodeos. I'm building the application in Go, which is an open source programming language and using the Gin framework, which is a full-featured. Hold on one second here. Let me mute something. There we go. Great. So Gin is a web framework. It's pretty full featured for Go. So we have, so here's the Go website, and we have the Gin framework website. That's uh, pretty good information in there. Now, along the way here, I'm using a few tools along with the language. One tool is Postman. I'm using Postman to work with the API and the various endpoints and HTTP methods. The database that I'm using for the application is MongoDB. And for kind of exploration of that data in a more visual manner than just reading text, I'm using MongoDB Compass, which is a free kind of GUI interface for exploring their data and provide some things like schema analysis and that sort of thing. It's a pretty good little tool. And again, it's better than just reading text data. And while you can use a variety of text editors or IDEs to code along with us here in Wild West Coding, I'm using Golang by JetBrains. I'm a pretty big fan of JetBrains products in general, and being a relatively new Go developer, I've been enjoying many of the features of Golang to help me learn Go as I work through this project. So I want to thank you all for joining me today, and I think we have a lot more work that we can work on here today. So we can get going here. So in the last episode, I mentioned and shared a few links for a few other tools I'm using as well, things like GoSwagger and .env for handling sensitive application data. You can check out the last episode to learn more about those resources and to see the start of their implementation and use. But I'll put links to all those resources that I've mentioned down in the video notes below here. And if you'd like to get the code and follow along, the code is available on GitHub, and I'll add a link to that in the video notes as well. And the URL for GitHub is github.com/KenWAlger, all one word, wild-west.coding.rodeo app, which is right up here in the code comments for our main.go file right there. So you can grab that and follow along if you want. So if you joined us last time, and even if you didn't, it doesn't change the facts here. At the end of the last episode, Golang was giving me an error after I defined a router group in Gen here in main.go, and I think that's down here. Yeah, it's on my line 74. There's an error that was giving about not liking some way that I defined that. So I was a bit perplexed there at the end of the last episode because this is the syntax that I've seen used. It's in the documentation. I've used it before. So I had no idea what was going on. So I kind of played around with it a little bit. This was what the code looked like last time. So I went in to the main function here and hit return. Literally, that's all I did. And the error went away. Auto error checkers are great until they aren't. So anyway, let's commit these changes here. We'll commit, and we'll add a router group for v1 of the API, and we'll commit and push those off. Okay, so yes, come on. Yes, come on. There we go. Okay, so if we go over here to our rodeo handler file, we have a list rodeo handler, which returns a list of all of our rodeos. And right now it's opening our rodeos.json file, and it's uh, parsing all that and converting it, unmarshalling, and returning a list of all of our rodeos. So that's pretty handy. But we have all our data in the database, and it probably would be nice to just go grab it from the database instead of having a static file that we have to deal with all the time. So let's rework all this here to do that. What do? You kind of make all this stuff go away that we did, and I think I mentioned last time it didn't make a whole lot of sense for us to build all the HTTP routes using the JSON file and then having to go back through and redo everything. So we're going to start that here. So we'll delete all that. We're just going to leave our return here. That's going to return our rodeos and our HTTP status okay. So what do we want to do here in list rodeos handler? So we're going to do a find operation against our MongoDB database, and those operations return a cursor. So we'll have to kind of manage that a little bit here. So let's take a look. So we do a cursor, and we'll do an error is equal to our handler collection, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. And we're going to pass in the handler context and our query. We're just going to do an empty string, which is going to return everything in there. Right, so we could put into this find, we could do specific rodeo names or any of the things that are inside each document. You can put in a query there, but in this case, we want to get all of our rodeos, so we're going to just put in an empty query argument. All right, so here we're going to handle the error not equal to nil. Then we're going to return a JSON of let's do the status internal server error, and we'll return the error message with error, and then we'll just pass the error back as well. There we go, and then we'll return out of that. Okay, so here we're doing that find operation. We have the cursor going. One of the things that we need to make sure that we do is close the cursor so we can, be good stewards of everything. We'll defer that until it's needed. We're going to take in the cursor. It's a Mongo cursor. Context is the context2. Context. All right, so in here, we might get an error of trying to do that, so we'll cursor close. And pass in that context that we had. Let's scroll up here a little bit, give us a little bit more screen real estate. And we'll handle this error. So it's not equal to nil. We'll just point out that there is an error doing that. Error closing the cursor. Right. And then if all that works out just fine, we're going to cursor in the handler context. All right. So we're handling the cursor. We have the cursor coming in from MongoDB. And now we need to process the data from the cursor and add it to our rodeos variable that we'll be returning. All right, so let's set that up. So we'll do rodeos. We'll make a slice here of models.rodeo. All right. So here we're going to iterate through the data cursor rodeos and append them to the rodeos slice. Right, so that's our task here. So we'll do a for loop here. So for each item in the cursor, we're going to populate our rodeos variable. And so we're going to do var rodeo. This is going to be a model, or it's going to be an object of the same model rodeo that we have. We're going to handle this error as well. We're going to decode the cursor, not cursor, the cursor, decode, and we're going to say that's that. All right, so we have that going, and then we're going to handle the error, right? Because error handling is fun and needed. All right. So if that all comes back hunky-dory, we're going to append the rodeo to our rodeo slice. All right, so that's kind of a lot going on in there. So let's kind of just recap here, walk through what's going on. So here, first off, we do a find operation in the database, the MongoDB database that has all of our sample rodeos. We're passing in a empty query string to get all the rodeos back. Here we're handling the closing of our cursor. And handling any errors there. And then this next section down here is kind of where all the real work is happening in this function, right? We are creating our rodeo slice, which with the go make function, which allocates a zeroed array and returns a slice that refers to that array. Inside the for loop here, we're iterating over the cursor, handling any errors, and decoding the cursor, and then appending the data to our rodeos variable. And then finally, here at the end, we're going to return our rodeos in indented JSON just to make it a little bit easier to read, along with an HTTP status OK. All right, so let's, it's kind of a lot. So let's run this here. Make sure that everything's still working. And assuming, there we go. So we're all up and going there. If we go over here to Postman, we can do our GET request for all of our rodeos. If we send that, because we had that a router group of version 1 in there, we're going to do that. We get an invalid namespace specified for live stream. Interesting. Invalid name. So that's probably over. Where did Golang go? There we go. So invalid namespace for live stream. Guessing that we are. So we have that name handler, rodeo collection. I'm wondering, let's go back over here. So live stream, I wonder if our connection string is incorrect here. Let me open up this file. So and I'm going to pull that off the screen here. So let's make sure, update our URI off screen here since that has some sensitive information. And let's try running this again. And see if this is going to work. We'll go back over here to Postman. And let's try this again. Nope. Very nice. That's always fun. So databases, live stream, collection of sample rodeos. Huh. Interesting. Let me see here. So if we go over here to Postman, and we're just going to do an index, which should get back hello world. That's good. So we know the server is working. Invalid namespace specified live stream with a period. Let's go back over here. Look at this. That's not what we want to look at. All right, let's try this again. And see, and if this doesn't work, interesting. What happens if we just go to a browser? We get the same thing here. Go over here. And if we do v1 rodeos. All right, so let's copy that error and let's go see what's going on here. MongoDB error. Invalid and specified. Verify the name and the connection string is valid one. All right, so let's head off to MongoDB Atlas. And we're going to we already have our account. We are going to do our Cisco one. And we're going to get in. Oh, Cisco Duo. We're going to skip that for now because we don't want everything to crash on us. All right, so a little behind the scenes here of MongoDB. And we're going to see if there's a different connection string here. That's going to, so we're using that. into our dot env file. We'll save that. Let's go back over here to here. Let's clear this out. Oops. Cleater. That's a new type of tree. They grow really tall, use them for decking. Cleaters. Just kidding. And we're going to run this again. And invalid namespace specified. Live stream, sample rodeos. Live stream, sample rodeos. This is all very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, so let's go back over here and look and see if there's maybe if we quote this in the .env file. Let's try that. All right, so here we have it saying that we're connected to MongoDB now. Let's run over here. Nope. Let's try this a different way. Sorry, folks. This is, it's part of the fun of doing things live. For anybody that has, had this experience of trying to code live, it can be interesting when you have bugs that, you weren't experiencing before. It's really, really interesting. Really interesting. Okay. All right, that doesn't seem to be helping. Let's try something completely different. When all else fails, right? You go in and so we are going to do a big no-no for live streaming. We are going to so hopefully nobody gets any really fun ideas here in the next few minutes, because we're just going to post this in and let's see if we can get that to work at all. With that, go over here. Nope, still doesn't like that. So our MongoDB database is, we're going to take this out, and the database is going to be stream. That's our database. Make sure that's right over here. Live stream. And let's try that now. Okay. Try that. Invalid namespace specified. Live stream. Still get the same error message. That's fantastical. All right, so let's put all that back. And let me see here. All right, so we have live stream, we have sample rodeos, invalid namespace. Let's try one other thing here. Sometimes capitalization can be interesting between things. Go run main.go. Now if we send it, I still don't get anything correct. So we'll change that back over here. So this is interesting because I've been working with MongoDB for years and years and years. And I've never had this before. Okay, so what is the deal here? MongoDB invalid. All right, so let's also go in here just so we get our current IP address, database access. Okay. Come in here. Collections, we have live stream and rodeos. So let's, no, I don't want to create a collection. Let's just try something different here. Wild West coding, and we'll do this rodeos, additional preferences, everything else there is good. We'll create that. So that will be completely empty, but maybe we can get into there. All right, let's go back over here. So our .env file has been updated with our database is Wild West Coding. New collection name is Rodeos. And now if we come down and run this again, let's see if we get a different error message, or at least nothing back. Invalid namespace. Well, that's promising, right? Like we know that that isn't the issue. So we'll put that back to where all our name or all of our data is. Database is going to be live stream again, and the .env, and the MongoDB collection is sample rodeos again. Invalid namespace specified. What in the world is that? And if anybody out there has any ideas, what can we see here? All right, so let's try over here. We're going to go to back to our connections. Let's try here. So that should be should all be dandy. Okay, V1 rodeos. We try that again. We don't have that because we didn't stop and rerun that. And we'll come over back over to Postman again. So routes V1 rodeos. Not getting that. Let's make sure that that is indeed the route that we are trying to do. So V1 rodeos. And it's coming through here. We're going to the handler, which has been assigned to the MongoDB collection. So we have that. All right. And we do that, we still get that back. Anything happening here in the headers? Nothing super exciting. All right. Bear with me, folks. This is part of the joys of live coding. I'm going to try one other thing here. Let's make sure that this is not running. And I'm going to come over here and do something. And see what we get in a different spot. All right, so that's interesting. All right, let me go through the code again here in main.go. And let's have a look just for a little bit of a sanity check here and see. So up here we have our rodeos handler, which is pointing to our handlers in our rodeo handler. We have our context, which is context, our client, which is MongoDB client or Mongo client. Here in the init, we're loading in our instance, our env file to get all of our items. Then we're creating the context, which is the background context, a client, and we are connecting our MongoDB client to the context and options. We're applying our URI of MongoDB URI. That should be doing well. We're pinging our context with that. Make sure that we're connecting. And in all of our logs, we were getting connected to MongoDB Atlas, so that part's good. So Rodeo collection should be our client database, and then we are getting the environmental variable for our MongoDB database, which is live stream, and our collection, which is the sample rodeos. And then our rodeos handler, we're attaching the handlers and our new rodeo handler, passing the context and the rodeo collection. All right, and then those we're not really using anymore, but we haven't deleted them yet. If we go over here to rodeo handler, what does this look like up here? All right, so we have our rodeo handler, which is a struct, and we have a collection of Mongo collection, and our context, which is context, and then our new rodeo handler. So we have a context there, collection is the Mongo collection, and it's a rodeo handler, and we're returning the rodeo handler, which is a collection, and the context. So that should be working just fine, but it isn't. So up here are imports. So let's try this and see if that, oh, we already have that. Up there. All right, let's try and see if that works now. See if our context was the issue here. And if we send that, we still get an invalid namespace. Great. All right, so we have our rodeo app and our models. We have our context too. We have format. We have our framework. We have that. And those should all be good imports to have. And I think that's all the imports that we have and need. All right, and then let's just, for giggles, revisit this here and take a look. So we have our handler and collection, and we're finding that. And that collection should be the rodeo collection. All right. So rodeo handler and struct collection over in main.go, where you're doing rodeos handler there and rodeo collection, but it's not liking our database name for whatever reason, because we're getting that error for invalid namespace. Oh, hey, and if your server isn't running, you're going to get all sorts of fun little errors of not being able to do things. We're running that again. we're still getting invalid namespace specified. Let me see. Hey there, AJ. How you doing? Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Good to see you. Having a little bit of a challenge here with invalid namespace specified for MongoDB using Go. So if you have any tips or tricks on that, I'd love to get people's input so that we can continue on. What is, is not found in the partition map. Key to the, all right. Yeah. Interesting. So we have the little blips here of the connections and all that from connecting, but not being able to pull down any of the data. Let me zoom in here a little bit to make it a little bit easier for folks online to see. Wild West coding, we can get rid of that one. We're not using that. It's just a test thing. Okay. Just for sanity, verify the import in main.go. I thought I did that, but let's take a look here in main.go. And we'll see on this. So we have our handlers, we're importing the handlers, we have our context, we have our gen framework, we have our .env, we have Mongo, we have Mongo options and repreference, we have our log and our OS. So that should be pulling that in, which seemed to be working just fine because we were able to connect to the database, at least according to our little log statement, and that's where that was pulling that information out. Interesting stuff, folks. Interesting times. Mr. Bull, if you are listening, how are we doing on time, sir?
You're doing good. About 15 more minutes.
15 minutes to figure this out. Okay. Hopefully,
would you like me to put on a sound that could be like an alarm, a klaxon for you as it gets too close to time?
No, I mean, we might just need the sound for this error. Okay. So let's see here. Maybe if we take out that. I'm not using Mongoose. So I'm not trying to export data. Not really trying to do Mongo dump. So that applies. Let's see. Okay, that's not it. Let's go back over yonder. do we want to take a look at here? Okay, so let's individual various things say that you need to quote or not quote those. We'll go in and change the password here on this here as soon as this episode is over to hide that. And we're going to run this again and see what happens. So we have connected to MongoDB Atlas, which was our error message here, or log message. So that seems promising. But somehow it was not liking our namespace here, which is livestream.samplerodeos. It wasn't liking livestream. And if we do that again, we still get invalid namespace specified. So so that should be fine, right? Let's close that down. What in the world is happening here? Handlers, rodeo handler. Context is context. Client is our Mongo client. We are loading in our .env file from instance folder. That's good. So we're not getting any errors there when we load that in. So that's spectacularly great. Our context is a context and the background context. And then our client error, we have Mongo. We're connecting to this context, and the options are our client. And we're applying the URI, which is our MongoDB URI. And then we're trying this out, and we're connecting to MongoDB Atlas. So up to there, that all seems fine. So our rodeo collection, we are trying to get our MongoDB database, which is live stream, and our collection, OS get rodeo collection, which is, oh, well, there we go. Let's try this. This is going to be fun. If this was all it was all the time, then I'm going to feel like a big doof, which is good because that's, how I feel at times when I code. It's like a big, huge goof. All right. Hey, look at that. Holy moly, all that for one little variable name. Okay, so yay. Sorry about that. But I'm sure I'm not the first person in the world to miss variable names. Okay, so yeehaw, right? We're getting the data as expected now. We're getting back all of our rodeos. So that's great. All right. Whew. Well, that didn't really go as planned today, folks. Sorry about that. But, sometimes life just happens. So let's go in here. We're going to update our documentation description here a little bit. We're going to have this changed to responds with the list of all rodeos as JSON. Okay, and then let's commit these changes because from database. Send those out. ignore those warnings. All right. Hey, after 50 minutes of beating my head against the wall and finding a mistyped or an inappropriate, or not inappropriate, but incorrect variable name, we have one of our routes done. Yay. That's great. So one of the things that I've been noticing here as we've been working through this today is I have this router group as just V1. I have a personal preference to have it be API, just so that you know that when you're getting to that route in your browser or in Postman or wherever, that's it's an API that you're trying to hit. So we can go back over here. Let's try this again. Get that up and running. And make sure we go back over here to Postman, and we're gonna do this API v1. Make sure that that still works. It looks like it is. We're gonna save that now, so that we have this for testing. Whew, okay. So if we look at the routes here that we're planning on doing and the route handlers, so we have rodeos and rodeos ID, and we'll be using those as parameters from our request, and our HTTP verbs, right? Post, get, put, and delete, and we're building out those paths. And this is a pretty common practice with APIs. We specify, in this case here, the HTTP get method to get back all the rodeos. And, for post, we're going to create a new rodeo, get with an ID. We're going to get back a single rodeo based on that ID. Put will update the rodeos, and delete will pass in a parameter or the ID, and we'll delete single rodeos. So this is kind of a best practice, pretty common user interface or developer interface for APIs. We've, very well could have gone in here and changed this to get all rodeos. Rodeos for the post, we could have create a new rodeo, and so forth. For get, get a single rodeo, update a rodeo, all those sorts of things. But that really doesn't result in a very good user developer experience, and it would be kind of bad form for your API. So I think I need water, and this is water after that little debacle. It's just water. Okay. I think we have time to do one more route here. Let's tackle our get rodeos to get a single rodeo, and we'll go in here, we'll uncomment that, and we're going to make this in version 1. So we have the API v1, and now if we go in here to our rodeo handler, we can come down here and we'll create a new function for getting a single rodeo. And we'll start off with our Swagger comments for documentation. So this is going to be a get and rodeos, and the parameter is going to be an ID and rodeos, and it's going to be one rodeo, right? So this is going to locate the rodeo whose ID value matches the ID parameter sent by the client. Let me put this up for visibility here. Then it will return the rodeo as a response. And get all the Swagger things in here, parameters, We're going to have a name. This is going to be the ID. Path. Description here is the ID of the rodeo. Required. It's going to be true because we want to just get back a single ID or a single rodeo, and without the ID, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And it's going to be of type string that we're passing in, and it's going to produce application JSON, and the responses that we're going to do here. We're going to have a 200 response, which will be the description will be a successful operation. All right. We're going to have a 400 response. Description will be so say it's a bad request of an invalid rodeo ID, and then 500 will say that there's something wonky going on, internal server error. All right, so now we can write the function. Now that we kind of have an idea of what we're going to want this thing to do. So this is going to be, we're going to have a handler here, which is our rodeo handler. And this is going to be list single rodeo handler. I think that's what we called it over in the other main.go. All right, let's.
And Ken, just to chime in, we got about 2 minutes left.
Yep. All right, so we call it get rodeo handler, and we'll just change it. Well, we'll change it over here to list single rodeo handler. List single rodeo handler. All right, so that makes that error go away. Let's see if we can get here in 2 minutes. Ooh, that's going to be tough. I think. All right, so with that in mind, I think after my search for variable name issue, I think we can, we'll revisit all of our handlers again next week, or actually in 2 weeks. So I think that's September 12th. And we will dive into that again, folks. Apologies for the error battle there, but sometimes that just happens when you're coding. So with all that, I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of the day and week, and we will see you all next time.